Hey everyone, it's Holly. Welcome to part 5 of the Student Hat Reaction series. We are going to be covering probably quite a few policies and bulletins today. I'm not really sure how many pages are in each, but we're just going to see what happens and go with it. Where we left off was here on demonstrations, the HCO Bulletin of the 14th of May, 1980. This seems to be a part of the survival rundown and basic courses, as seen on the left-hand side. And rather than waste your time, we're just going to dive right into reading it. So, demonstrations. A demonstration is showing something by examples, and a demo is an abbreviation for demonstration. Got to clear up those MUs. Part of Scientology study tech is the use of demonstration when a student is studying concepts and ideas. The student is often asked to show such things as definitions of terms, basic principles, etc. Two ways of demonstration that are commonly used are demo kit demonstration, meaning the use of various small objects such as corks, caps, paper clips, batteries, etc. These objects are kept in a box or container called a demo kit. Each student should have one. The pieces are used while studying to represent the things in the material being read. Demonstrating helps make concepts and ideas more real. A demo kit adds mass or physical matter, reality, and doingness to the significance, and so helps the student to study. When a student is required to do a demonstration using his demo kit, he simply takes whatever demo kit items he wishes and has them represent the ideas he is studying. An example of this is the student is reading about how a student and his twin should sit across from each other, each with a dictionary and a demo kit. To demonstrate this, he picks a blue battery and decides that represents the student. He picks out a red battery and decides that represents his twin. He places the batteries across from each other. He then picks out two pennies, which he decides will represent the demo kits, and places a penny or demo kit beside each of the batteries or students. He then picks out two paper clips, which he decides will represent dictionaries, and places them next to each of the batteries or students. The student now has sitting in front of him some actual objects that represent what he has read, and he feels much better because the information isn't just in his head. The demo kit pieces can be moved around by the student if he's studying about an activity or an action. If a demo is being done for a twin or the supervisor, the student explains what the objects represent and what he's doing with them, but the idea is to actually have the objects showing any action, not the student's explanations. 2. Clay demonstration, meaning the use of clay in demonstrating or representing facts, ideas, procedures, add mass, reality, and doingness to the significance, and so help the student to study. Clay demos give a proper balance of mass and significance. They are used to teach a student to apply. The student is given a word or auditing action or situation to demonstrate. He then does this in clay, labeling each part. The clay shows the thing. It is not just a blob of clay with a label on it. Use small strips of paper for labels. The whole demonstration then has a label of what it is. On the checkout, the student removes the overall label. The student must be silent, and the examiner must not ask any questions. The examiner just looks and figures out what it is. He then tells the student, who then shows the examiner the label. If the examiner did not see what it was, it's a flunk. Clay table must not be reduced to significance by the student explaining or answering questions, nor is it reduced to significance by long-winded labels of individual parts. The clay shows it, not the label. The clay demonstrates it. The student must learn the difference between mass and significance. For example, the student has to demonstrate a pencil. He makes a thin roll of clay which is surrounded by another layer of clay, the thin roll sticking slightly out of one end. On the other end goes a small cylinder of clay. The roll is labeled lead. The outer layer is labeled wood. The small cylinder is labeled rubber. Thus a label is made for the whole thing, pencil. On checkout, the student removes pencil before the examiner can see it. If the examiner can look at it and say, it's a pencil, the student passes. If clay table training is not brightening that student up, then the above is not being done. Someone is in such a rush that real learning is being put aside for the sake of speed. Alright. I already got a problem with this. And I'm sure some of you can see it as well. If you're a shitty sculptor, you are screwed. It doesn't matter whether you understand the concept or not. If you can't model this shit in clay and they don't understand it, you're completely fucked. If clay table training is not brightening the student up, then the above is not being done. It could be being done, and it still might not be brightening that student up because they don't have a problem with anything. They don't have any MUs or misunderstood concepts. They're doing what they're being told, which is the above. But clay demos might not do shit. So, there you have it. Demo on a check sheet usually refers to using a demo kit. Clay demo on a check sheet refers to using clay to demonstrate per the procedure given above. A well-done demonstration which actually does demonstrate will produce a marvelous change in a student, and he will retain the data. Yeah, no. So this was from L. Ron Hubbard as assisted by Technical Project IC. IC, as I believe, means in charge. So, by the Technical Project in charge, which is the person higher up a part of the technical project. It's like the boss and the manager. All right, what's the next one we got here? Demonstration, a board policy letter, 15th of April 1972, revised and reissued 31st of July 1974 as a board policy letter. Demonstration, cancels HCO policy letter 20th of March 71, successful actions on the FEBC. Well, now I want to know what the FEBC is. Flag Executive Briefing Course. Okay, so these are executives who work at Flag. Flag Executive... I've already looked this up. Okay. I don't remember looking this up. But I guess I did. Oh, yeah, I forgot about this. We have the actual audio logs from Hubbard's lectures under the AOGP Qualifications Division lecture library on SoundCloud. So if any of you want to look at that, I will put the link for that in the description. All right. Successful actions on the Flag Executive Briefing Course and HCOPL 2nd of April 71, Issue 3, How to Push Up Student Points. The correct use of demonstration is contained in the policy letter of 4th of October 64, Theory Checkout Data. The purpose of demonstration by that policy was to detect glibness on checkouts. If the person can't demonstrate a datum by the use of a few rubber bands or paper clips, it's obvious the person is glib, able to quote the words but not able to apply the data. What if something can't be demonstrated that way? What if something is decently complex and can't be demonstrated in that method? The solution would be to find why the person's not applying study tech, get them oriented towards application, locate and handle any MUs in the materials, and get them restudied and checked out. The use of demo kits became extended and altered to mean the student fiddles with bits and pieces continually while studying. This serves no useful purpose and is not demonstration. The twinner supervisor has a student demonstrate key principles of the materials while doing star rate checkouts. This doesn't mean the student fiddles constantly while being checked out. It means specific demonstration of data contained in the materials are as asked for by the person doing the checkout. If a student, while studying, is not clear on something and has looked up the words, he may use a demo kit to work it out. This is not demanded, it's at the discretion of the student himself. The more usual action in such a case is for the student to go over to the clay table and work it out properly in clay in accordance with the clay demonstration bulletins, which are fully valid and in no way changed by this policy letter. The principle of demonstration is invaluable for working out something one is developing. A staff member working at his desk isn't going to do a clay demo. He can, however, easily use a pen and paper. Part of demonstration is drawing something out in 2 dimensions. An arbitrary rule which works out in practice is, if you can't demonstrate something in 2 dimensions, you have it wrong. Or it just can't be demonstrated in 2 dimensions. The rule is used in engineering and architecture. If it can't be worked out simply and clearly in 2 dimensions, there's something wrong and it couldn't be built. In those professions, one wouldn't consider writing the specifications without first having it worked out fully in diagram form on the paper. This applies not only to construction details, but also to the full sequence of coordinated actions resulting in a building in the physical universe. It's a full program worked out on paper as an arrow diagram, showing coordination of sequences, terminals, materials, subproducts, etc. against time. From this diagram, specific written instructions for the job are easily and accurately drawn up. Such a graphic demonstration immediately shows up any outpoints and confusions and is a key use of demonstration. Sorry, I'm just rereading this. This applies not only to construction details, but also to the full sequence of coordinated actions resulting in a building in the physical universe. Full program worked on paper as an arrow diagram showing coordination of sequences, terminals, materials, subproducts, etc. When a graphic representation gets too complicated or can't be graphed at all, you have something wrong. Usually the diagram will show what is wrong and itself leads to the solution. An obvious example is a navigator who, instead of trying to work it all out in his head with some foggy concept of where he is, simply graphs the sailing plan in progress on a chart. Presentation gets too complicated, it can't be graphed at all, you have something wrong. Usually the diagram will show what's wrong and itself leads to the solution. He's using all these simple examples, but there's got to be examples out there that don't apply to this. Like this, it's not going to be this fucking easy all the time. Org boards and statistical graphs are also examples in their own way. There's another form of demonstration, by far the best when applicable, and that's to show the actual thing to the person. It's limited to those things which currently exist and are available. You can show a housewife a washing machine, but you can't show a person a human mind in the same way. The human mind can, however, be well demonstrated in clay. You can demonstrate what it looks like, but you can't demonstrate how it functions. You can show a housewife a washing machine, but you can't show a person a human mind in the same way. Yes, you can! Autopsy, motherfucker. Autopsy. The human mind can, however, be well demonstrated in clay. Demonstrating data in clay is too slow a method of detecting glibness on checkouts, so one uses rubber bands and paper clips. Demo kits are not always an easy way to work out something new being developed, so one uses pen and graphs it out diagrammatically in such cases. The graphic form is also much easier for disseminating to others, clay demos being difficult to pin on walls, mail, or put into hats. Student hats, staff hats. Summary. There are 4 primary methods of demonstration in Scientology. Demonstration by showing the actual object, such as what is an e-meter? This is an e-meter. What does an auditing session really sound like? Listen to this tape-recorded session of LRH auditing. Clay demonstration, used to demonstrate existing data, etc., adds mass to the significance and is invaluable where the actual thing is not present or cannot be shown visibly. Demo kit using rubber bands and paper clips. Used in star-rated checkouts to detect glibness. Alright, I never looked up the word glib, but I feel like it's a technical thing. Glib student. One who can confront the words and ideas. He cannot confront the physical universe or people around him, and so cannot apply. He does not see MEST or people. MEST is an acronym: matter, energy, space, time. The reason for this is that he is below non-existence on one or more dynamics, and so cannot align with the others. Used in star-rated checkouts to detect whether a student knows the data, but can't demonstrate it. Graphic demonstration, used in developing or clarifying sequences, lines, flows, how things work together or go together, etc., and locating bugs and such. A useful, fast form of developing something new and communicating concepts, sequences, and arrangements to others. All 4 methods are for use and are part of Scientology study tech. On the instructions of LRH by Training and Services Aid for L. Ron Hubbard. Okay, so we learned about the types of demonstrations now. What do we got next? Demo kits. Okay, so this is specifically getting into demo kits. 29th of October 1970, revised and reissued the 5th of October 77. All students are required to have their own demonstration kit. A demo kit is a bunch of rubber bands, batteries, fuses, corks, caps, paper clips, coins, or whatever will do. These are kept in a box or container. Tobacco tins and dairy cartons are good. A demo kit's to be used for all study. It's to be used frequently while coaching, doing checkouts, solo studying, or listening to tapes. A demo kit adds mass, reality, and doingness to the significance. The pieces of the kit represent the things one is demonstrating. It helps hold concepts and ideas in place. Thus, the idea of an auditor, a PC, and a meter become real with 2 coins and a paperclip. They can be seen and felt. Demo kits are for use, and they will get you much better results. This is Flag Class 8's course supervisor for L. Ron Hubbard. Alright, well, that one was short. Clay tables. Here we go, 11th of October 1967, clay table training. The purpose is to make the materials being studied real to the student by making him demonstrate them in clay. 2, to give a proper balance of mass and significance. 3, to teach the student to apply. Students given a word or auditing action or situation to demonstrate. He then does this in clay, labeling each part. The clay shows the thing. It's not just a... Wait, we already read this. Blob of clay, label of what it is. Yep. Removes the label. Yep. Figures out what it is. If we don't know if it's a flunk. Yep. Clay table must... Yep, we got that. Clay demonstrates it. Pencil. May also be noted that checkouts on bulletins must also ask for demonstrations. Use paper clips, rubber bands, etc. The examiner should ask questions that require an ability to apply. Give the student a situation and have him tell you how he would handle it. Questions about what is Rule A do not detect the glib student. Long-winded explanations on clay table put it back into significance, prevent the student from learning to apply, and prevent the student from getting the proper balance of mass, and do not blow confusion. All checkouts must keep in mind that the purpose is application, not just getting a check sheet complete. If clay table training is not brightening the student up, the above is not being done, blah, 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 speed. This student has to audit with his materials. Don't let him fall flat by lousy checkouts and lousy demonstrations. A well-done clay demo, which actually does demonstrate, will produce a marvelous change in that student, and he'll retain the data. The majority of this is just a repetition on the first bulletin that we read. So, skip. Next one. This cancels clay table demo checkouts, clay demo, and clay demo errors. Wow. It's quite a few. From 10th of December, 1970, revised 10th of February, 1981. Revised to include the valid data from the above board technical bulletins, to add a section on handling clay, and to delete references to the instructor's use of the clay table as a method of instruction. Instructors have been replaced in the academy by supervisors. References to clay table used in the Hubbard Guidance Centers have also been deleted, as this data is still contained in HCOB 17th August AD 14. All right. They have dates. AD stands for after Dianetics. So AD 14 is 1964 because Dianetics was published in 1950. But the fact that they have to change the date and method numbering is a pretty strong sign of cult behavior. Scientology's 1 to 4 clay table work in training and processing and is not needed in this particular bulletin. Clay table work in training. See the reference of the 11th of October 67 clay table training. The only reason any student is slow or blows lies in failure to understand the words used in his or her training. Bullshit. You will find that students at any level in any course will benefit greatly from clay table work on definitions. The importance of this will become apparent as you study our educational technology, now mainly to be found on the study tapes. Ellipses indicate deletions. The clay table. A clay table is any platform at which a student, standing or sitting, can work comfortably. In an academy, it may be 3 feet by 3 feet, or 5 feet by 3 feet, or any larger size. Smaller sizes are not useful. The surface must be smooth. A table built of rough timber will serve, but the top surface where the work is done should be oilcloth or linoleum. Otherwise, the clay sticks to it and it cannot be cleaned, and it will soon lead to an inability to see clearly what's being done because it's stained with clay leavings. In the academy, casters or wheels can be put on the legs of both the clay table and the clay container, where they'll be moved a lot. Large classes should have several clay tables. Clay. Several different colors of clay should be procured. The best source is a school supply house where educational supplies are sold. Artist clay is not as good as the school type. Ask for kindergarten clay. Artist's clay is not as good as the school type. That's already wrong. Artist clay is much higher quality than school clay. A receptacle, also of wood or metal, and having a separate stand of its own of any type is also valuable. It should have subdivisions in it for the different colored clays. Okay. The fact that he needs to go into such specific detail about the container that it's in is fucking mind-blowing. How much time and paper he wastes going into such small details. The amount of each color is not important so long as there's at least a pound or two of each color in a small class. In the academy, colors are only used to make a student see the difference between one object and another, and have no significance, as the objects in the mind are not uniformly colored. While ridges are black, they can become white. Engrams may be a number of colors all in one engram, just as Technicolor is a colored motion picture. However, some persons see engrams only in black and white. So the color in the academy is for instruction only, assisting to tell the difference between one object or another. Use on courses. Any part of the mind or any term in Scientology can be demonstrated on a clay table, depending on what you mean by part of the mind, because that might be wrong. Actually, no, that probably is wrong. This is an important point to grasp. The use of the table is not just for a few terms, it can be used for all definitions. The ingenuity of the student and his understanding of the terms being demonstrated are the only limits on a clay table. Simplicity is the keynote. Nothing is too insignificant or unimportant to demonstrate on a clay table. Anything can be so demonstrated if you work at it, and just by working on how to demonstrate it or to make it into clay and labels brings about renewed understanding. In the phrase, "How do I represent it in clay?" is contained the secret of the teaching. If one can represent it in clay, one understands it. If one can't, one really doesn't understand what it is. So clay and labels work only if the term or things are truly understood, and working them out in clay brings about an understanding of them. Therefore, one can predict that the clay will be most used in a practice or organization which understands the most, and will be least used in an organization that understands the least and is least successful. Let us look over the level of simplicity of the terms to be used in a course of instruction. Let's take body. Alright, make a few lumps, call it a body, put a sign on it, body. That doesn't seem to be much to do, but it's a lot to do to forward understanding. Let's make a yellow ring of clay beside the body, or on it or in it, and label it a thetan. We can thereupon see the relationship between the two most used terms in Scientology, body and thetan. That's funny that they're teaching us in the student hat. Body thetans, fucking OT3 shit. That's a way high up. And cognitions will result. The student's attention is brought right to the room and the subject. Getting the student to do this by himself produces a new result. Getting the student to do it 25 times with his own hands almost exteriorizes him. Alright, exteriorization is essentially an out-of-body experience. It also seems like it can come about by hypnosis. And having to do this shit over and over again can probably put you on some sort of autopilot. Getting the student to contrive how it can be done better in clay, or how many ways it can be done in clay, drives home the whole idea of the location of the thetan in the body. Art is no object in clay table work. The forms are crude. Take a large lump of clay of any color and cover up both thetan and body with it, and you have mind. Take every part of the mind and make it in clay by making a thetan, making a body, and making one or more parts of the mind. Machine, facsimile, ridge, engram, block, what have you, all Scientology terms. And get the student to demonstrate in clay what it is and begin to clarify what we're about. Get a student to make a present time problem. Make him put in all its parts represented in clay, boss, mother, self, and have each one done with a body, a thetan, and a mind, and some rather remarkable insights begin to occur. What fucking insights? It's the idea of a spirit. Big whoop. The quantity of things that can be made has no limit. It says that these such great things are going to happen. What the fuck is going to happen? Why don't you give an example? I don't see anything really significant coming out of making a fucking clay sculpture. Now, labeling clay demonstrations. Any part of the mind can be represented by a piece of clay and a label. The mass parts are done by clay, the significance or thought parts by label. A piece of clay and a label are usually both used for any part of the mind. A thin-edged ring of clay with a large hole in it is usually used to signify a pure significance. The fuck is a pure significance? Pure theory? A thin-edged ring of clay with a large hole in it is usually used to signify a pure significance. That doesn't fucking mean anything. Everything is labeled that is made on the clay table, no matter how crude the label is. Students usually do labels with scraps of paper written on with a ballpoint. We don't need to hear how they make the labels. It's a fucking label. It's not that hard. You don't need to explain every fucking step like you're a fucking 2-year-old. The procedure should go, student makes one object, labels it, makes another object, labels it, makes a third object, labels it, and so on in sequence. If a student makes all the masses of his demonstration at once without labeling them, he's sitting there with all those significances stacking up in his mind instead of putting down each one in the form of a label as he goes. The correct procedure is label each mass as you go along. Size of clay demos. The size of the demo can be important. A clay demo should be rather large. 1 or 2 inches high is usually inadequate. Large demos help to increase the student's reality on what he's demonstrating. More reality means more affinity and communication, and therefore more understanding. ARC. Why does the size matter? So now you're making clay sculptures like 3, 4, 5 inches tall. because it helps to increase reality on what he's demonstrating. Should do the same thing at 1 or 2 inches tall. It doesn't fucking matter. Size of it isn't... size doesn't matter. The size of the fucking sculpture shouldn't make or break the student's understanding. Checkouts. The clay demonstration must show that the student's understanding of the materials being demonstrated is present. The clay shows the thing, not the labels or the imagination. If a student's clay demo isn't correctly done or doesn't show what is to be demonstrated, it must be flunked with reference to the material. In such case, the student must be referred to the correct bulletin, policy book, or tape reference from the materials of the course. Another student's demo is never referred to or used as an example. Handling clay. Clay is messy. Until we find or unless we find a totally non-oily clay, precautions must be taken to keep students clean, and if not clean, cleaned up afterwards. Therefore, the course administrator can provide liberal quantities of cheap cleaning tissues and odorless solvent. The clinging quality of clay and the odor of bad solvents could put an end to the great value of clay table work, so safeguard against this. The principal thing is to get every Scientology term made in clay and labels by the individual student. You will see a new era dawn in training. You will see academy blows vanish and time on course cut to 1/5 in many instances. That's quite the difference. I think the only way you'll see that much time cut out of a course is if you're not doing fucking clay demos. These are desirable attainments in any course, so clay table work is serious academy business. Ingenuity and understanding are the only limits on the use of the clay table and the attainment of excellent results with it. So we've covered demo kits, we've covered clay tables, we've covered the clay itself, and how clay demos are supposed to work. Alright. We are going to end off. I think we're going to end off right here at this policy letter called Scientology Training Twin Checkouts. I want to thank all of you guys for listening or watching. Like the video if you enjoyed it. If you dislike it, I don't see it. Comment with any feedback you may have, good, bad, or sideways. And subscribe to be kept up to date on future content. And I will talk to you all later. See ya.